like the one that I referenced?
I think those are, I don't know if they're going to do an insurance claim study. That's one way to do it. I don't know exactly whether they're doing epidemiological studies or observational studies. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I know I talked to Marty McCary about it yesterday, and he said those studies are progressing and that they're ongoing. So I will keep your office informed at every stage.
Thank you. And I had a really constructive conversation with the FDA commissioner as well, McCary. And here's a very smart, data-focused, sincere type of leader. And we had a really good conversation. I want to encourage those conversations with you, Mr. Secretary, and that there's a follow-up here to make sure that the data that we now have exposed will be studied by the FDA and the appropriate actions considered. Given the legitimate safety concerns surrounding mifepristone and your actions to roll back other COVID emergency measures, will you repeal the COVID-era telemedicine allowance, given that we're repealing these COVID-era regulations, emergency measures? Would you repeal the COVID-era telemedicine allowance for chemical abortion drugs and restore the requirement for an in-person doctor visit?
Senator, I need to get back to you on that. I don't know if the White House has yet taken a position on that. We will get back to you this week about that.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I'm going to close with a quick Montana question. Earlier this week, the state of Montana submitted a Medicaid demonstration waiver application to CMS to strengthen the state's Medicaid expansion program. This waiver seeks to require community engagement and enhance cost sharing for working-age, able-bodied adults enrolled in the program. I applaud our governor, Gianforte, and Director Brereton for their proactive leadership in this space. My question is, Mr. Secretary, could you commit that CMS will work quickly in its consideration of Montana's waiver application?
Absolutely. It sounds like the kind of waiver that we're looking for.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Caddy, first of all, thanks you for your willingness to serve and for putting up with this abuse. 5 minutes is even close to refute all of the falsehoods that have been confidently spewed during this hearing. We'll talk about real data here, okay? Well, first of all, thank you for breaking the logjam of information of HHS. My committee's got now over 8 million pages of information. Just in the first tranche, by the way, what we discovered is that the CDC, somebody in the federal health agencies, this interagency communication, hid the signal. They admitted there was a signal on myocarditis, and they hid it. They didn't warn the public. They didn't warn doctors. So that's just one instance of corruption and lies told by the CDC. We've got a lot of others who will be rolling out, okay? So we held our first hearing in front of the subcommittee investigation on that hiding of the signal myocarditis. We've heard a lot of studies, okay? As I've looked into science, it's been thoroughly corrupted. Here's data. And I'd like to enter this sheet into the record. I've been publishing this chart for, since really early 2021, when I'm on, for example, talk radio shows and they talk about this, they get deplatformed, or they were, because all the censorship in the Biden administration. Here's the facts. The VAERS system that was touted in October of 2020, this great safety surveillance system on COVID, a few months later, when they didn't like the results, they started denigrating their own system. But VAERS shows that there have been 38,742 deaths reported on VAERS worldwide associated with the COVID vaccine. 38,742. 9,252 of those deaths occurred on the day of vaccination within 1 or 2 days. Again, I agree with you. Nobody knows how many COVID deaths were because the information was completely corrupted. Nobody knows how many lives were saved. Again, I think most people, okay, if you're vulnerable, raise your antibodies, reverse severity, fine. There's not any good study on that. There's just information out there, just claims being made. This is hard evidence. And certainly what I've been advocating for are the injection injured, the childhood vaccine injured. We're going to be holding a hearing next Tuesday on a study done by a high integrity healthcare facility that shows that actually looked at vaccinated versus unvaccinated, very high quality study. I'm not going to steal the thunder of Aaron Sear, who's going to be testifying on this. I think you're aware of the study that shows the vaccinated population far more prone to chronic illness than people completely unexposed to vaccines. That is just one example of how science has been corrupted by the way, the study was conducted, and when they conducted, so, oh no, no matter what the results are, we're going to release this. They got the results in 2000. It is yet to be released. We're going to enter that in the record on Tuesday. Do you want to just talk about what you've witnessed in terms of the capture of the agencies that you're now in charge of, the corruption of science, which I believe you just said, that is almost your number one goal, right? Is try to bring integrity and credibility back to science, which has been corrupted by the people who pay for it, by federal health agencies being captured by pharmaceutical industries, by big pharma, by big food. Just, I want to give you, I'm sorry, just the last minute to, first of all, defend yourself, but talk about the corruption of science that you're having to deal with and trying to correct.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you one example, and I could sit here and give you thousands. But in 2002, the CDC did an internal study of Atlanta, Fulton County, Georgia children, and looked at children who got the MMR vaccine on time and compared those to kids who got them later. So in other words, kids who got them before 36 months and kids who got them afterward. The data from that study showed that Black boys who got the vaccine on time had a 260% greater chance of getting an autism diagnosis than children who waited. The chief scientist on that, Dr. William Thompson, the senior vaccine safety science at CDC, was ordered to come into a room with 4 other co-authors by his boss, Frank DeStefano, who's the head of the immunization safety branch, and ordered to destroy that data. And then they published it without that fact. So you know that story, I know that story, and you know of hundreds of stories like that. It happens all the time. We are being lied to by these agencies, and we're going to change that right now.
Out of business because of the 50 employee mandate. It's going to be out of business. I just want to enter that in record as well.
Without objection. The committee will take a 5-minute quick break here just to allow just a moment of reset here, and then we'll start right back up again in about 5 minutes. Thank you to everyone. Committee is returning back from recess on this. Senator Whitehouse is recognized for questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I want to talk to you about Rhode Island. When you were last sitting there, here's what I said to you. I want to read it back to you because I want it to sink in. CMS has for years maintained a reimbursement system that the bureaucracy could never explain, never justify, that persistently pays Rhode Island providers less than neighboring Massachusetts and Connecticut providers, a difference of 23 and 26% in our regional healthcare market. Rhode Island's healthcare system is bleeding out because we aren't paid what neighboring hospitals and doctors are paid. And the one act that CMS took on this issue years ago was to make it worse. I raised that with you then. I've raised it since with Dr. Oz. I've raised it with CMMI Director Sutton. I would like to get action from CMS on that. One partial avenue of relief for Rhode Island is the AHEAD program. Rhode Island is a willing voluntary participant in the AHEAD program. Coming behind Rhode Island is Connecticut. What remains to be seen is whether the payment rates agreed to for Rhode Island will suffer the same discriminatory discount with respect to the AHEAD rates for Connecticut as Connecticut comes through. I've been able to get no assurances from CMS that they care one whit about this payment differential or that they see AHEAD as a means of resolving this injustice. Mr. Kennedy, our healthcare system is teetering as a result of this. This is not a casual matter, and I would really like to see you and Dr. Oz and Mr. Dutton put your attention onto this Rhode Island problem. There is no conceivable justification for paying a hospital in Fall River 23% more than Rhode Island Hospital when Rhode Island Hospital provides more and better services as recognized by the Secret Service, which will take an injured president from Martha's Vineyard to the Rhode Island Hospital Trauma Center, flying right over St. Anne's Hospital in Fall River, yet Fall River gets paid more. It makes no sense and it has to be resolved. The other problem that I mentioned to you is that I'm now in my fourth round of CMMI directors. It's bloody Groundhog Day, trying to get something done about how end-of-life patients are treated. I'm offering Rhode Island as a willing example of how we can do it better. It is idiotic and cruel to force a family to put their dying loved one through 3 days and 2 nights of a hospital before they can put them in a nursing home. It is equally ridiculous to not allow palliative and curative care to happen passed by CMMS and other circumstances. All I want is for somebody to come and work out how we do this in Rhode Island. What is our patient base that will do this in? How we put the waivers together. To quote your CMS director, Mr. Oz, he said, as we discussed in your office, we must re-examine how end-of-life care is addressed in this country. I'm offering Rhode Island as an example of how to make it better. I hope you will concede that right now it is not good. So
Senator,
I need you to respond to me. You guys know where to find me. I'm up in the Hart Building.
Yeah.
We've reached out, we've tried for meetings, and the progress in all 3 of those areas, fixing the payment gap, getting ahead balanced regionally, and following through on our desire to do good things, improving end-of-life care with waivers you guys have already granted, has gotten me so far no place. And forgive my impatience, a lot of it predates you. I put a hold on Biden nominees because I was getting jerked around by your bureaucracy. I'd like it to end and get some progress.
Yeah, Senator, you raised this during my confirmation hearing, and I said to you then, and you were very civil. You raised something that makes a lot of sense to the extent that we have the power to fix it at CMS. I'd like to do it. We've had the same kind of complaints from Vermont. But I said to you at that time, call me and let's come talk about this. You have my cell phone. You can call me anytime. I've never heard from you in 7 months. Call me up. I'd love to meet with you. I'll get Oz in the meeting, and what you're saying, particularly about at the end of life, it may be something we could do something about. I want to help, and let me know.
We'll try. Forgive my frustration. You've got 30,000 employees. They could have reached out to me. They know where I live.
Yes. Senator Cortez Masto.
Secretary Kennedy, thank you for being here. In May, you said, and I quote, "I stand with President Trump to say, no more middlemen, no more foreign freeloaders, no more skyrocketing drug prices. We're putting American patients first and taking on big pharma to make America healthy again." Yet your record tells a different story. In July, Republicans handed big pharma a massive win. Their big, beautiful bill that they just passed shields billion-dollar drugs like Keytruda, the world's top-selling cancer drug, from Medicare negotiation. Keytruda has been on the market since 2014. It pulled in nearly $18 billion last year in the United States alone. It costs patients up to $175,000 a year, draining Medicare of billions and forcing families into crushing debt or to forego life-saving care. And yet you support the big, beautiful bill. So despite the hype with executive orders and Washington Republicans only drug pricing law days relief for Medicare patients relying on high-cost cancer drugs, meanwhile, Democrats finally have allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices. I will say that Keytruda, along with Opdivo and Darzalex, the three top-selling cancer drugs, were widely expected to be selected for Part B negotiation in 2026 for 2028 implementation. They are now, because of the actions of this administration, exempt from negotiation for at least several additional years, if not permanently. So my question to you, Mr. Secretary, is how do you justify claiming to take on big pharma while supporting a bill that shields drugs like Keytruda and other cancer drugs from Medicare negotiation, costing seniors and taxpayers billions, and risking the lives of cancer patients who cannot afford their necessary medication?
Yeah, Senator, I appreciate the question. The Medicare drug negotiations in the IRA were very well intentioned, but they were poorly structured. And what we found is that the negotiations that have occurred actually have ended up raising the costs for Medicare. We are right now in negotiations.
The CBO has not agreed to that. The CBO doesn't say that. It's just the opposite. So you're saying the CBO and independent agencies that validate the costs are wrong?
Well, that is CMS data.
Okay, so let's just focus on the cancer drugs. Why aren't we negotiating those and putting those down for families? Why does the bill exempt those?
It's part of the MFN negotiations. I'm not sure of that provision in the bill, of the one beautiful bill, but You're not sure of the provision, the negotiation provision, and how exempt for Keytruda?
Your agency is responsible for that negotiation, and you don't know about it?
I know that we're negotiating in the MFN.
Let me ask you, Mr. Secretary, let me ask you another question. How much are Medicare Part D enrollees expected to pay for prescription drug coverage next year?
I think that is in debate right now.
Let me tell you.
Are you talking about the rate?
They are going to pay $15 more than last year. Up to $50 a month. $15 more! How much are Medicare Part B premiums expected to increase next year?
I don't know. I've talked to Dr. Oz.
That is about,
I think it's
supposed to increase about 11.6% or $21.50 more each month. And again, last time you were before me, you couldn't answer the questions of the very agency and the authority that you have to address these issues. Next year, seniors and families are facing higher healthcare costs across the board. 23 million people on Medicare with a standalone Part D drug plan could see their premiums rise to $50 a month. up from 35 because the Trump administration is cutting the federal subsidy that has been keeping costs down. Part B premiums will jump 11.6% to $206 a month in 2026, one of the largest single year increases in decades. And so for an administration that claims it is lowering costs, my question to you is, what are you going to do to keep costs down for seniors?
I mean, I'm already doing what I did. I'm already keeping costs down.
What are you doing to keep costs down for seniors, knowing that these costs are going to be increasing?
I mean, the program integrity bill, that is the first action that I did when I got in. It's one of the earliest actions in history of a complex regulation by an HHS secretary. A Congressional Budget Office has said that that's brought premiums down by 5%. That is the Congressional Budget Office, which does not like to acknowledge anything that we do.
And does that impact seniors?
Excuse me?
Does that impact seniors? And I know my time is running out. Does that impact seniors? What you just talked about, you're lowering costs. I'm asking you specifically.
We're lowering costs.
Seniors. Does it impact seniors?
Does it impact?
Come on. Let me just stop you.
I didn't hear
Time is
what
running
you
out,
said.
so I appreciate the chairman's indulgence here. My concern is you can't answer the questions. The very agency has oversight over these issues and controls the levers to lower costs for seniors. And you can't answer that simple question.
I didn't hear your question.
Okay, let's go.
We'll just proceed. And Senator Tillis has yielded his position to Senator Blackburn. So
And
she will take it.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the comments you've made about the Rural Health Transformation Program. That is something many of us worked on, and we were pleased to push that out of this committee. And I know Dr. Oz is moving forward with implementing that. I appreciate your comments to Senator Warner on the area wage index. He and I have worked on fixing that, and we appreciate your attention. I am delighted to know that you're going to end the revolving door and the conflicts of interest. I have found it so unseemly that people who work with a pharmaceutical or with a big food company then go back over into CDC or NIH or FDA, and then they're signing off on regulation for their former employer and many times their future employer. So we appreciate that. Senator Langford went to you on the PBMs, and as you are aware, my PBM Act that Senator Wyden worked with me on, that made it out of this committee last cycle. And making certain that we keep these rural pharmacies open, making certain that PBMs do not profit above what is their standard service fee, and that they have to disclose all their pricing. That is going to be an imperative. So will you work with us to get that PBM legislation across the finish line and to the president's desk?
Yes, Senator, absolutely.
Thank you. Interoperability is something that you have announced, a new interoperability framework to better align data sharing principles. And this is important to digital health. And as you're aware, when we passed 21st Century Cures in 2018, the Software Act and that health IT definition is something that I worked tirelessly on to get implemented. So what I want to hear from you is, how does CMS plan to align this new framework with the existing federal framework? And how are we going to be able to move forward with one national policy on interoperability?
Well, I don't know if we, what we have right now is concrete commitments from the 60 top tech companies who we were able to convene to do data sharing, to do patient accessibility, and to do interoperability. But I can't tell you how that's going to mesh.
Then if you will have someone submit to me in writing what that pathway is, this is something that is essential if we're going to be able to benefit from that data. So having some specificity on the pathway will be helpful. I did want to talk with you. Last time you were here, I talked about the concerns on overprescribing prescription stimulant drugs for children. And there are ways that HHS can work collaboratively with state agencies on this and to actually promote more community-based intervention to combat overprescribing. And we all have seen the harmful side effects. And there's a lot of reporting out there on this and tremendous concern for grandmamas like me who see children and friends of our grandchildren who suffer with this. So I know your team is working on solutions. So you're going to have your Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy that you're going to release. But talk for a moment. We've got 30 seconds left. Talk for a moment on how you can better arm parents with information on the harmful side effects of overprescribing these stimulant drugs.
I mean, one of the problems, Senator, is that, we now have 1 out of every 5 kids on these drugs and the antidepressants, even more. And we know very little about the long-term impacts because NIH and CDC have been asleep at the wheel. Right now, we are doing those studies. We're doing extensive studies so that we can warn parents and so that we can force the companies to put labels on their products. And, we'll do whatever we can to show that, just to get data out to the public. That's really what our function is. And to show what the long-term impact of some of these drugs is. Are we actually preventing suicide or are we creating more suicide? And that's something that we don't know the answer to, which is, how did these drugs become so common in our society without us even knowing the answer to those questions? That is malpractice at these agencies, and that is the malpractice that I am going to fix.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So last November, while you were under consideration to become Secretary of Health and Human Services, Mr. Kennedy, you said, quote, if vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away. No exceptions, no ifs, ands, or buts. You would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. Then last week, you announced that the COVID-19 vaccine is no longer approved for healthy people under the age of 65. In announcing the change, you said the vaccine will be available for anyone who wants it. Now, obviously, both things cannot be true at the same moment. So let's clear this up right now, Secretary Kennedy. Will you tell America that all adults and all children over 6 months of age are eligible to get a COVID booster at their local pharmacy today?
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS. Anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No. If you don't recommend, then the consequence of that in many states is that you can't walk into a pharmacy and get one. It means insurance companies don't have to cover the $200 or so cost. As Senator Dr. Cassidy said, you are effectively denying people vaccines.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
What you should be doing is honoring your promise that you made when you were looking to get confirmed in this job.
You're going like this.
And that is, you promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy
The
free.
question is, everyone who wants it, that was your promise.
I know I didn't. I never promised that I was going to
You didn't
recommend
promise.
products with which there is no indication.
When you said.
And I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that? Because you are the one who said you would not take them away. Now, Senator.
I'm not taking them away from anybody.
Secretary,
You want me to indicate a product for which there is no clinical data?
Senator,
Is that what you want?
Secretary Kennedy, you said you wouldn't, and now you did.
I'm not taking them away.
Obviously,
Everybody can get access to them.
No, they can't walk into a pharmacy the way they could last month and get access.
It depends on the state. It depends on the states.
A year ago.
But they can still get it. Everybody can get it. Everybody can get it, Senator.
So look, let's move on. You clearly are taking away vaccines. I've seen the list for what's coming up next, and that is the agenda for the next CDC vaccine panel. And first up is ratifying your COVID actions. Second is hepatitis B is on the agenda. So should Americans expect you to take away hepatitis vaccine access as well, even though you promised not to?
As I said, I'm not taking vaccines away from anybody.
Okay, same answer, right? You're just going to deny that when people can't get access, that you're not taking it away. Then let me ask you, is that the same game you're going to play with me?
You want me to recommend every product in the world?
No,
without any clinical trial data.
Through on your promises.
Yeah, my promise was to give.
A month ago, we could get COVID vaccines by just walking.
You can still get COVID vaccines, Senator.
You are taking that away.
No, you can still get the COVID vaccines, and Medicare will still pay for them, and Medicaid will still pay for them.
Tell the head of the CDC that if she refused to sign off on your changes to the childhood vaccine schedule, that she had to resign.
No, I told her that she had to resign because I asked her, are you a trustworthy person? And she said no. So if you had an employee who told you they weren't trustworthy, would you ask them to resign, Senator?
So I'm sorry, but this is not what she has said publicly. She has said.
I'm not surprised about that.
So you're saying she's lying?
Yes. Every conversation I had with her, there
and
were
let me get this
witnesses.
straight. This is the same person that less than a month earlier you stood next to her and described her as unimpeachable, and you had full confidence in her, and that you had full confidence in her scientific credentials. And in a month, she became a liar?
Yeah, we should ask her what changed. And by the way, a month ago, you were voting against her. Oh, because you thought she was either incompetent, ineligible, or unsuited to the task.
I voted against her because I was afraid she was going to bend the knee to you and Donald Trump. And it looks like she didn't bend the knee, so you fired her. Look, you're putting America's babies' health at risk, America's seniors' health at risk, all Americans' health at risk, and you should resign.
Senator Sanders. I just want to pick up on Senator Warren's point. Are you telling us that the former head of CDC went to you, you asked her, are you a trustworthy person? And she said, no, I am not a trustworthy person?
She didn't say, no, I'm not a trustworthy person. She said, no. I'm giving a quote.
And I asked her, no, 1 second. And you're also repeating now that she is a liar, correct? Which you wrote in the Wall Street Journal.
If she wrote that I fired her because she refused to sign on in advance for the ASIP committee. No, that's not accurate.
All right, you're calling her a liar, and I look forward to her coming before the Health Committee, and maybe this committee as well. All right, Mr. Secretary, I've got a bunch of questions. Appreciate brevity in answering it. So-called beautiful bill threw 15 million Americans off of healthcare, substantially raised premiums, and it's going to have a terrible impact on nursing homes, community health centers, rural hospitals all over America. Very briefly, it's not really making America healthy again.
It's going to be the biggest infusion of federal dollars into rural health care in American history.
Yeah, you know why? Because you're cutting $150 billion for rural hospitals. You're putting $50 billion back. That's not an infusion. That's a loss of $100 billion. All right, next question. President Trump, who I don't usually agree with, called COVID vaccines, quote, one of the greatest miracles in the history of modern day medicine that saved tens of millions of lives worldwide. Scientific community agrees with Trump. Lancet study found that it prevented almost 20 million deaths during their first year of use. Secretary Kennedy, are President Trump and the medical community right? Or do you still believe that the COVID vaccine was, quote, the deadliest vaccine ever made?
No, first of all, I didn't say that. I said that in terms of affairs reports a while ago. I said today, I think that President Trump should get the Nobel Prize.
So who's right? Is Trump in the medical community right, or are you right?
President Trump did an extraordinary piece of leadership.
Is he right or wrong? Did COVID save millions of lives?
As I said, he got Americans back to work. At that time, that particular vaccine, which perfectly matched the virus that was circulating then, and I have no idea how many lives it saved, but it saved quite a few.
You know, what I find a little bit weird in this discussion, I'm hearing it over and over again this morning, Mr. Chairman, is we've got the entire medical community on one side. You got the AMA representing hundreds of thousands of doctors, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Public Health Association. All of these organizations are telling us that COVID vaccine and vaccines in general are safe and effective. You are casting doubt on that. Who are the organizations that are agreeing with you and casting aspersions on vaccines?
The primary advisors are Marty McCary, Jay Bhattacharya, Dr. Oz, Vinay Prasad.
So you got a few doctors who agree with you, and I'm giving you
Not a few doctors. What you're talking about is there's a big difference, Senator, between established science and the scientific establishment, which has been co-opted by the pharmaceutical industry.
So you're telling the American people that the American Medical Association, representing hundreds of thousands of people, have been co-opted and that they should not trust their doctors. And the American Academy of Pediatrics, and by the way, just for the record, every single Republican, I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman, has received PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. Are they all corrupt as well?
And I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the food.
Everybody but you, Senator. But you know what? When you ran for president, we have a corrupt campaign finance system. Maybe you'll agree with me on that. Okay, you were already president. You got $1.5 billion behind it. You received $300,000 from people, not from the industry, people in it, as I did, from individuals. You corrupt. President Trump got $3 million. Every Republican got corporate PAC money for the pharmaceutical industry. Democrats as well. Everybody is corrupt, but you? Is that what we're looking at? I don't think so. And I think the issue now...
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I think you do know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The issue is every time anyone
Are you saying the pharmaceutical industry was supporting my presidential campaign?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the pharmaceutical industry is a greedy institution which is charging us the highest prices in the world. They are pervasive. But to suggest that every institution, the AMA, the pediatrics people, is corrupt because they disagree with you is an insult to
It's not that listen, people disagree with me all the time. I have arguments in my agency, heated arguments every day with Jay Bhattacharya, with Marty McCary, with Dr. Oz.
You have given the names of a few people. I have given you the names of organizations representing hundreds of thousands of doctors and scientists. I yield, Mr. President.
Senator Tillis. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Kennedy, thank you for being here. A couple of times you asked people if they were making a statement or a question. What I think I may do, just to give you a breather, is to make a statement with a lot of questions. And just for the record, I'd like you to have the opportunity to have your staff respond. I can't conclude from the discussion today where you are on warp speed. So I would like the definitive statement on on exactly where you are. Was it good? Was it bad? Were the things that worked? Were the things that didn't work? I can't discern that from what you said here. I, for one, think that it was a signature accomplishment of President Trump, and the mRNA platform is something.
I agree with that.
I look forward to you giving us a detailed statement on exactly where you are with warp speed. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a trial lawyer. I'm a boring management consultant. Another question that we'll submit in the record, I'll give you directionally where we're going. I don't see how you go over 4 weeks from a public health expert with unimpeachable scientific credentials, a longtime champion of MAHA values, caring and compassionate and brilliant microbiologist, and 4 weeks later, fire her because at least the public reports say because she refused to fire people that work for her. So as somebody who advised executives on hiring strategies, number one, I would suggest in the interview, you ask them if they're truthful rather than 4 weeks after we took the time of the U.S. Senate to confirm the person, just for the future nominee that we're going to have to consider. But I do also believe that some of your statements seem to contradict what you said in the prior hearing. You said you're going to empower the scientists at HHS to do their job. I'd just like to see evidence where you've done that. And I'm sure that you will have some. You will do nothing that makes it difficult or discourages people from taking vaccines. There seem to be several reports that would seem to refute that, but I'd rather you just respond to it. I'm not going to come here and impose my belief over any of yours. That, again, seems to be contradictory to the firing of a CDC director, the canceling of mRNA research contracts, firing advisory board members, attempting to stall NIH funding, eliminating funding for the $500 million for further mRNA research, and just want an answer for it. On HR1, I believe you know my concerns about HR1. I've had several meetings with, and HR1 is the big beautiful bill, OB3, whatever the brand is. But I've got an office with 60 staff, including half of them in state office. I've had 3 different estimates of the economic impact on the state of North Carolina. Can I get your commitment? And I have been looking for somebody that's far more resourced than an office of 30 people up in here in D.C. to disprove my estimates with respect to the impact on North Carolina, period. And I've yet to have anybody. I would love to be embarrassed and be wrong, but I would like to get your commitment for people to tease through the numbers that I provided before the vote on HR1 that says that if you normalize 3 independent estimates across a broad spectrum, $25 billion over 10 years. I don't need your response now. I want somebody to destroy my estimates, because to this point, the most resourced health agency in the world has only given me word salad responses, and I need that so that we can prepare for the response. $25 billion over 10 years is half of the rural relief fund over 5 years. And so we just need to have that fact as a matter of policy so that we can go in North Carolina and absorb it. And I know every state's different, and I'm assuming every one of my colleagues here have done the math for their states, not focused on that. But I want you to destroy my estimates and if they're in fact wrong, and I want you to acknowledge them if in fact they're right. That will come into question as well. Mr. Kennedy, you've stated multiple times in response to other members' questions that scientists were lying. We'll go back to the record in cases where you've said that. I'd just like to see the scientific evidence to substantiate that. I'm going to stipulate that you were honest and you had research behind it. We'll go back and figure out what scientific studies you believe are founded on lies and not scientifically viable. And then finally, I just want to give you an opportunity. Apparently in the exchange with Senator Bennett, you said you agreed with Dr. Levy's statements, who said that the mRNA vaccine causes serious harm, including death, particularly in young people. They said you agreed with that comment. Did you agree with that comment or not?
I think that's true, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tillis. We now have Senator Smith. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Kennedy, I have sat here for the last many minutes, and listened carefully to your testimony. And I think actually Senator Tillis laid out so many of the ways that what you have said has contradicted yourself and others. I don't even know where to start. So I'm going to start here. Over the last 8 months, you have claimed to make America healthy again. But in actual fact, you have led the charge in the Trump administration to destroy what is best in our healthcare system. And your denials and your evasion and your lies here do not change that. You are the Secretary of the Health and Human Services. Yet you're trafficking in these fringe idea and discredited theories that are completely out of step with the scientific consensus. And you seem to be willing to say anything in the moment, even if it's untrue. So last time you were before Congress, Secretary Kennedy, you claimed, and I quote, "I have never been anti-vax. I have never told the public to avoid a vaccination." But in a podcast, you said the opposite. You said there's no vaccine that is safe and effective. So that sure sounds anti-vax to me, Secretary Kennedy. So let me ask you, when were you lying, sir? When you told this committee that you were not anti-vax, or when you told Americans that there's no safe and effective vaccine?
Both things are true.
Oh, so more denial, more back and forth. I mean, here's what I know. Here's what I know.
Explain why, Senator. You just.
No, actually, I want you to listen to me.
Okay, go ahead.
I want you to listen to me because I've been listening to you. You said that ACIP is an independent panel after you stocked it with your picks. You said that you want evidence-based science, but it seems that what you mean is evidence that supports your view, not the scientific consensus. I mean, you dared to sit there and call my colleague from New Hampshire a liar when she presented you with facts that don't support your view of the world. It's incredible. But let me move on. Just last week, in the days after the tragic shooting at Annunciation Catholic School in my home state of Minnesota, you went on Fox News blaming school shootings on antidepressants. You have no evidence of that because you have no evidence of a connection. And you want to talk about...
You're just saying something. You're just making stuff up.
You know, this is what you say, right? Secretary Kennedy, when someone presents you with information that does not fit...
I did not blame that shooting. I have no idea and I never said that. You're making it up. You're twisting. Yeah, you are.
Secretary
You are being
Kennedy,
dishonest right now.
you want to talk about mental health and gun violence in this country? If you want to talk about mental health and gun violence in this country, we should be talking about that because that's what the parents of Annunciation School.
You don't want to talk. You want to harangue, and you want to politically. You want to have partisan politics. I want to actually solve these problems.
Ms. Secretary Kennedy, what the Trump administration is doing right now is making it harder for people in this country to get access to mental health care. So don't talk to me about solving the mental health care crisis when you are making it harder. You cut Medicaid, which is the number one payer for mental health care services in this country. You decimated the agency at Health and Human Services that focuses on mental health and substance abuse. That's what states count on. They're cutting their services to schools as a result of that. Several years ago, in a bipartisan way, Congress came together and passed the Safer Communities Act, which made important investments in mental health care and did some important, though small things, to reduce access to guns. What do? You propose cutting that funding. This is what we're talking about in your leadership in the Department of Health and Human Services. If you want radical transparency, as you talk about, I mean, take a look at what you are doing. And, you know, I've heard a lot about MAHA today while we've been here. There's a lot of Americans, Secretary Kennedy, who trust you, who believe what you say, especially when you say you're standing up to corruption. And I think that they need to know, you apparently have a lot of influence with President Trump. Did you ask him not to roll back these regulations that are stopping the big corporations from dumping heavy metals and endocrine disruptors into our soil and water? I mean, there's no evidence that you have been even opposing that. Did you do anything to stop the Trump administration from rolling back this handout to big pharma that makes it easier for the big drug companies to charge more for cancer drugs? No, you presided over that. I mean, it's stunning, really, what's happened over the last 18 months. It's stunning to me. And I just hope that in this moment, our colleagues, there's hardly anybody left in this room, are going to think about what it is that you've done, what your legacy is going to be at the Health and Human Services Agency, and pay attention to the damage that is being done here.
Senator Marshall. All right, thank you, Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Secretary. One of your themes for the CDC is transparency. And I think when I hear you talk about transparency, I think part of that is sharing what you know, what the CDC knows with parents so that they can make decisions. Behind me, yeah, I know it's gonna be hard to see from there. I can barely read it. This is the current CDC recommendations for vaccines for children. On day number 1, they get their first jab, a hepatitis vaccine. By the time they're 18 months, they've had 18 jabs. By the time they get to be old enough to vote, they have 76 jabs. Now, when I listen, what I hear you say is that, look, vaccines are drugs. We need a measured response and when do we use this? It's interesting that the United States has put age 65 and older for COVID vaccine. UK has chosen 75 and France 80. Obviously, scientists disagree exactly when that should or shouldn't be. Hepatitis B vaccine, it makes no sense to me. I've only delivered 5,000 babies, but we do a hepatitis test on every mom. By the time she delivers that baby, I know her pretty well. And if she doesn't have any risk factors, if she's not an IV drug abuser, if she's in a stable monogamous relationship, nobody at home has hepatitis, I don't see the benefit myself in that hepatitis vaccine. Everyone's eligible for it. Everyone can get it. And my pediatricians always agree with me. And no, I'm not saying if you don't know the hepatitis status of that patient, they shouldn't get it. I'm not saying that if this is persons that had no prenatal care, that puts them at risk for hepatitis. Can you just speak a little bit, when you talk about transparency and trying to empower and make vaccines available, these should be treated just like a medication?
Yeah, I mean, I say I'm not anti-vaccine. Saying I'm anti-vaccine is like saying I'm anti-medicine. Well, I'm pro-medicine, but I understand some medicines harm people. Some of them have risks. Some of them have benefits that outweigh those risks for certain populations, and the same is true with vaccines. And we don't understand the risk profile because vaccines are the only medical intervention, medical device, or pharmaceutical drug that are exempt from pre-licensing safety studies. And so there are 2 hepatitis vaccines, and one of them had a safety study that lasted for 4 days on 143 kids for a product that's going to be given to 76 million kids. Yeah. The risk profile prior to the introduction of the vaccine, the risk of a baby dying from hepatitis B was 1 in 7 million. That means you need to give 7 million hepatitis B vaccines to prevent 1 death if you're going to give 7 million.
So, Mr. Secretary, and I guess before the press labels me wrong, I'm not anti-vaccine either. I think MMR's been a great vaccine. The DPT's been a great vaccine. Polio's been a great vaccine. Smallpox. So there are great, but it's the measured approach that we're after, the transparency. You're trying to empower parents here. What I feel the difference is, sometimes my friends across the aisle feel like there's a one-size-fits-all, that they should be telling parents what to do. And what you and I are fighting for is we want to empower parents to make these decisions. I want to talk about morbidity and mortality of COVID for just a second. It is so true that 2 things can be true, and I don't understand why just the rabbit hole some of my colleagues are going down. There's a big difference. When I was out there practicing, doing volunteer work, I was so confused myself on the numbers. People dying with COVID versus from COVID. And we still don't have that message. And I think that's what I hear you saying as well. How many people died from COVID versus with COVID is a different answer. The situation today is so different when this monster virus was made in a laboratory in Wuhan, China, and none of us had ever seen this virus, and we had no immunity to it. But today, every American's had COVID a dozen times probably, and we built up immunity. I think that's why both things are true. It was a miracle. Warp speed was a miracle. What President Trump and his team did, and it saved millions of lives most likely. But it's also true that it probably killed some people. Like most vaccines do, there is a death rate associated. So both things are true. Anything else you want to clear up on the morbidity, mortality of COVID and COVID vaccines?
Well, I think you just cleared it up. the COVID vaccine was critical. President Trump's leadership got it to us when our society was locked down and allowed us to open up. It was, as I said, perfectly matched to a virus that was new in the experience of humanity. And so it was a miracle. Right now, we're dealing with completely different circumstances where the virus has mutated, where it's much less dangerous, where there's a lot of natural immunity and herd immunity. And so the calculus is different and it's complicated. And, if you just want to turn everything into a soundbite, it makes it, you can't have a grown-up conversation. But there were more reports to VAERS, which is the only surveillance system that we have of injuries and deaths from that vaccine that all vaccines put together in history. So we have to acknowledge that there was a cause. We acknowledge that there was a benefit. We can't quantify either one because of the data chaos at CDC. And that's all I'm saying. And they think I'm being evasive because I won't make a kind of a statement that's almost religious in nature. Did it save 1 million lives? Well, there's no data to support that. Or maybe data, there's no study that there's modeling studies, there's faulty data. I'm not going to sign on to something if I can't do it to a scientific certainty. It doesn't mean that I'm, anti-vax. It just means I'm pro-science.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Kennedy, Dr. Daskalakis, who recently resigned as director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, his resignation letter stated he and his team were never allowed to brief you. I'm curious who you're listening to, since it's clear you're not listening to qualified experts like Dr. Daskalakis. Can you give the committee the name of the person?
I don't consider Dr. Daskalakis.
Mr. Secretary, the question that I have for you is, can you give the committee a name of who you're getting briefed by?
I'm getting briefed all the time by CDC.
Just a name.
Well, Dr. William Thompson's one name.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now, but I can get you a whole list of others. It's on my schedule.
Mr. Secretary, that's not a hard question. You know a lot of answers.
I'm not being evasive.
Okay, then you answered it. Let's go on. Now, you said that you're soon going to release a study claiming to reveal the cause of autism, timed unsurprisingly with the upcoming ACIP meeting to justify taking vaccines from Americans. Now, as you know, autism affects millions of children. So I guess you'd have the nation's top medical experts working on this. Mr. Kennedy, you hired a man named David Geyer to conduct this study. Is that correct?
No.
Is Mr. David Geyer working for HHS?
He's a contractor, but he's not conducting the study.
He's a contractor?
He's a contractor.
Do you know who works for you, Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah.
Do you know that Mr. Geyer is listed as a HHS on the employee directory as a senior data analyst, not a contractor?
He's a contractor. He's not an SGE.
So is your website wrong?
He's not an SGE. I don't know what.
I'm going to pull up the website for you.
He's a contractor.
If the website says he is a senior data analyst, will you at least admit to the committee?
Well, I don't know if
wrong?
a contractor can be classified as a senior data analyst or not.
Is Mr. Geyer a doctor?
No.
Did you know he never went to medical school?
He's not. He's not practicing medicine.
Did you know that he got caught in Maryland and was charged for practicing medicine without a medical license?
He was charged by a medical board and sued the medical board, and the medical board was found to have acted in actual malice and was fined $2.6 million by a judge in Maryland for doing that.
See, so you choose to know a lot when you want to know a lot. It's incredible, Mr. Kennedy.
Senator, you're ridiculous.
So here's the question I have. You brought him in to do this study. I think there's no question about it.
I told you he's not doing a study.
Is he participating in the study?
No.
Is he doing any analysis in regards to this study?
No. What he's doing is getting access to the Vaccine Safety Data Link, which is the biggest repository for vaccine information that your friend would not give us for 7 months.
Mr. Secretary, let me ask you this question, just because you know the answer. What is Mr. Geyer doing?
He He is the only one, because Congress ordered CDC to open up the VSD to him in 2002. He's the only outsider who's ever seen it. So because CDC will not give us a
Mr. Secretary, is he participating in this then?
No, he isn't.
You just said he's the only dude that knows what's going on here.
Do you want me to explain it to you, Senator, or do you
No,
just want to show? You just want to showboat.
I'll submit.
You just want to showboat for your ads, or do you want to hear a real answer to your question?
Mr. Secretary, you choose to know answers to questions with some colleagues.
I'm willing to give you the answer.
Mr. Secretary, someone should have asked you, maybe President Trump should have asked you, are you a trustworthy person? And we should have waited for an answer then. Let's move on.
I don't even know what you're talking about. You're talking gibberish.
Mr. Secretary, let me speak slowly and clearly so that you can understand me through my New Mexico accent.
And then give me a chance to answer.
Does this help? Can you understand me?
Yes.
Appreciate that. Mr. Secretary, yes or no, did you hire Mr. Geyer to do this study?
No.
Mr. Chairman, well, let me ask, maybe we'll just get a good answer here. Mr. Secretary, will you commit to sharing the protocols used for the autism study with Congress and to the public?
They're public.
Will you commit to giving it to this committee by the end of the week?
No, not because that's not the way it works. You don't even know what you're talking about.
Mr. Secretary, will you commit to sharing the protocols for the study by the end of the month?
We already have
You just said it's public.
We put out the notice of funding opportunities, and then the scientists from all over the world.
You're not understanding me.
No, you're not understanding how the world works.
Do you understand what the protocols are? Do you understand what they are?
The scientists who are doing the studies submit the protocol.
Okay, so you know
what they are. Coming from us.
So will you commit to sharing those protocols with this committee?
Well, anybody can get a hold of the protocol. It's published with the study.
Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to ask is for your commitment here. I'll send a letter to the Secretary. I'll ask for support from the leadership of this committee to ask for those protocols. If those protocols are not given to this committee,
anybody can get the protocol.
Mr. Secretary, I'm not talking to you. Mr. Chairman,
if the protocols are public, we can work with you.
What I'm asking, Mr. Chairman, is that if those protocols are not given to this committee, I'm asking for your agreement that we follow through with the subpoena to get them.
No, I will not agree to subpoena anything. Let's see what happens.
Mr. Chairman, you'll help me get them if they're available publicly?
Yes.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kennedy, with all the questions here today, people just want to know the truth.
I don't think so.
Mr. Secretary, you don't think so? Thank you.
I don't think so.
I hope everyone recording that got that, because there explains the Secretary's tenure here. Look, 2 young ladies in Las Cruces, New Mexico, at a town hall recently gave me this starfish pin. I was going to give it to you today, but after your questioning today, I don't think you deserve it, because what this represents is to remember that every one of us can make a difference, sir. To something as small as a starfish on a beach that maybe got washed up, you throw it back in the ocean. You might not save them all, but you can save one. I'm sorry that you're not worthy of this nice little pin, sir, as a nice reminder. I'm going to pray for you, Secretary Kennedy. I hope we do better. I want you to do better. But today was a failure for you, man. I yield back.
Senator Warnock.
Thank you, Brother Chair. Less than a month ago, we received the heartbreaking news that a gunman opened fire at the CDC campus in Atlanta, Georgia. This obviously is my neck of the woods. This is heart-wrenching for all Americans, but for those of us especially who live in that area. The County police officer, David Rhodes, was killed. The shots hit buildings on campus in at least 180 places, narrowly missing the CDC's daycare center. Law enforcement recovered nearly 500 shell casings. Clearly, he came to do a lot of damage. It's a miracle, and thanks to the quick action of Metro Atlanta and state law enforcement, more people were not killed. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation announced that prior to the attack, the gunman expressed discontent with the COVID vaccine and, quote, wanted to make the public aware of his distrust of the vaccines. Secretary Kennedy, I assume you are aware of these disturbing reports of the gunman's motives?
Yes.
And, I understand that some people may have concerns about new medical breakthroughs, but those people don't have the world's top medical experts working under them. You've been over HHS for 7 months now. Have you ever been briefed by CDC's career immunization officials to discuss your concerns?
And by the way, every member of this panel has criticized President Trump.
I only have three. Have you ever been briefed?
Complicit in the assassination attempts on President Trump?
Sir, I'm asking the questions. You are the witness. It's a simple yes or no question. Have you ever been briefed by CDC's career immunization officials to discuss their concerns?
Yes, I have.
What was the answer?
Yes.
You have been briefed by CDC officials, the career immunization officials.
The senior vaccine safety scientist.
Have you ever been to the CDC as secretary before the shooting on August 8th?
Have I ever been there as secretary?
Have you been there as secretary before the shooting? No. Okay. Let's return to the shooting and the aftermath. Secretary Kennedy, I'm about to ask you a series of yes or no questions about the events of the past month. And I would appreciate just a yes or no response. You called Dr. Manarez to your office on August 25th for a meeting. Is that correct? Yes or no?
It could be. I just don't know the date. I'd have to check my calendar.
Was Jim O'Neill the man you just appointed as acting director of CDC in the room on whatever date you met with him, since you can't recall? Was he in the room when you met with Dr. Manarez? In that meeting, did you criticize Dr. Manarez for her statements to CDC following the shooting where she said, quote, misinformation can be dangerous?
I don't believe so. I have no record.
You don't believe you criticized her?
Oh, I criticized her.
Did you criticize her?
Did you criticize her? I don't even.
Did you criticize her for her statements to CDC workers following the shooting?
Did I what?
Did you demand that she fire career scientists or public